I-28F met Travis, 31M, at a neighborhood barbecue in Austin, Texas. He showed up late, covered in engine grease, holding a six-pack of Shiner Bock, and grinning like he'd just walked out of a Levi's commercial. I remember he asked if I wanted to split a beer like we were in some kind of rom-com. He wasn't like the tech guys I usually dated. He worked at a local custom motorcycle shop, had tattoos, a dog named Fender, and a truck that rattled like a washing machine with a bowling ball inside. Still, something about him felt grounded. Real. I worked in nonprofit management at the time, helping low-income families access housing services, and I'd been burned out, both emotionally and romantically. Travis was a breath of fresh air. He showed up to our first date in boots that had probably been on 100 job sites and paid the bill in cash. He had this charming, slightly gruff way of talking, always saying ma'am to waitresses, and when he laughed, his whole face crinkled. We hit it off fast. Within a few weeks, we were spending every weekend together. Drives through the hill country, late-night Whataburger runs, grilling out with his friends who treated me like family. I met his dog. He met my cat. We joked about our pets hating each other but secretly got excited every time they didn't. He said things like, "You're a good one, Olivia," and I believed him. My friends were skeptical at first. They said he wasn't my type, that he seemed like someone who peaked in high school. But they didn't see the way he'd warm up my car in the winter, or bring me tacos after a long shift. He wasn't perfect, but he was solid. Or so I thought. About 3 months in, I started noticing cracks. He'd get defensive if I asked questions about his past relationships. Once I asked why he didn't speak to his sister and he snapped, "Because she's a goddamn leech." Then changed the subject. If I talked about work too much, he'd roll his eyes and say things like, "Babe, save the sob stories for your clients." But he'd follow it up with forehead kisses and breakfast in bed, and I kept telling myself everyone had flaws. The intimacy was incredible too. And yeah, we started sending each other some pretty steamy pics and videos, always consensual, always playful. I never worried. I trusted him. I wanted to trust him. I was fully in. I told my mom about him. He came to my coworker's wedding and danced with me all night. He posted a photo of us on Instagram with the caption, "She's got me acting right." And my heart damn near exploded. Then came the subtle control. He didn't like that I had guy friends. He'd joke about me dressing for attention. If I didn't respond to texts fast enough, he'd say, "Hope you're having fun with whoever you're out with." He never yelled, never pushed, but the guilt trips were constant. Like when I went to brunch with my best friend Jordan F. And he said, "Damn, I thought we were doing something today. Guess I'll find something to do alone." I started canceling plans, spending more time at his place. He made it feel like he was my only safe space, even as he slowly isolated me. 6 months in, he lost his job. Said his boss was a micromanaging little shit who didn't appreciate his work. I offered to help with his resume. He said he didn't need help. I offered to spot him for rent that month. He got real quiet and said, "Don't make me feel like a loser, Liv." I apologized, and he kissed my hand and said, "I just need time to figure things out." For the next few weeks, he was glued to the couch. I'd come over after work and he'd be high or playing Call of Duty, sometimes both. I started paying for groceries. His mood swings got sharper, more unpredictable. One night I asked if he'd applied for any jobs that day and he said, "Why do you care? So you can feel like you're better than me?" I should have left then. I didn't. I stayed. Because when he was kind, he was so kind. He made me playlists. He kissed the back of my neck when I cooked. He told me I was the only person who ever made him feel safe. I clung to that. Looking back, I can see how hard I was trying to make it work, to convince myself I hadn't made another mistake, that he just needed time, support, patience. I ignored the gut feelings. I ignored the way he'd lock his phone around me, the way he talked about other women with this bitter edge, the way he never ever said sorry even when he clearly messed up. I told myself he was just struggling, that I was strong enough to wait it out. The turning point came when I caught him texting another woman. Her name was Brittany. I found the text when I grabbed his phone to order pizza and a notification popped up. I wasn't snooping, didn't have to. The message said, "Last night was fire." I froze. He saw me staring and grabbed the phone. Didn't even look guilty. Just muttered, "Don't go through my shit, Olivia." I asked who she was. He shrugged. Said it was nothing. Then turned the blame on me. Said if I wasn't so damn critical all the time, maybe he wouldn't need to talk to other people. I was speechless. He left. Slammed the door. I cried in his hallway for an hour. And then I left. For real. packed my stuff from his place the next day while he was out, blocked his number, deleted our pics, told myself I was done. I had no idea what was coming next. I thought the cheating was the worst part. I hadn't even scratched the surface. That man had a plan. And I was about to find out how deep it went. After everything that happened with Travis, I moved back in with my older cousin Brianna in Denver to get my head straight. She had a spare room, 2 golden retrievers, and a no bullshit attitude that I desperately needed. She told me straight up, "You dodged a bullet, Liv. That man's a walking red flag in cowboy boots." I wanted to believe it was over. I wanted to believe that once I blocked him, unfriended him, and disappeared from his social media radar, he'd just crawl back into his toxic little hole. But nah. It took exactly 3 days for him to rear his ugly head again. First it was an email, then another, then 10 more. They started out with the usual pathetic crap. "I miss you. You're overreacting. Brittany meant nothing. Let me explain." I didn't reply. Not once. I thought ignoring him would make him stop. Instead, he escalated. I got an email with the subject line "Think twice." I almost didn't open it, but curiosity or stupidity won out. Inside was a Dropbox link and a message. "I told you I don't like being ignored. You want to play hardball? Let's play." My stomach dropped. I clicked the link. I know, dumb, but I had to know. And there they were, our photos. Not just the fun, flirty ones either. The deeply personal, never meant for anyone else kind. Stuff I'd sent him because I loved him, trusted him. Stuff he'd taken of me too when we were being intimate. Stuff I never consented to being saved, let alone shared. I closed the window and sat there, heart pounding, trying not to throw up. Then I got a second email 2 minutes later. "These go to your mom and your job next unless you call me." He attached screenshots. One of my LinkedIn page. One of my mom's Facebook profile. My whole body went cold. My face felt hot. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was having a panic attack, but my brain was moving a million miles an hour. I wasn't just scared. I was furious. I texted Brianna, who was at work, and she called me instantly. I couldn't even get the words out at first. When I finally told her, she went quiet, then said, "This is revenge porn. You know that, right? You need to document everything. Every single thing." She was right. I took screenshots. I saved every email, every attachment, every timestamp. I copied the Dropbox URL. Then I did what I should have done months ago. I called a lawyer. Brianna connected me with Miles, a civil attorney she knew who handled digital harassment cases. He wasn't flashy, bald, wore flannel even on Zoom calls, but he knew the law backward and forward. I explained everything. I told him how Travis and I met, how things fell apart, and what he just threatened. Miles didn't even blink. He said, "Revenge porn is illegal under Colorado state law, and federal law's catching up. He's crossed a major line. We can hit him civilly and criminally, but you need to keep quiet. Don't respond to him. Don't warn him. Just gather." I hung up the call and felt this weird wave of calm wash over me. Like, okay. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't powerless. I had a game plan. Travis had no idea he'd just messed with the wrong woman. That night, I filed a police report. I walked into the precinct with a folder full of evidence. Emails, screenshots, links, logs. The officer who took my statement, Officer Jensen, was a woman in her late 40s who looked like she'd seen it all. She was professional but kind, didn't make me feel ashamed. When I showed her the pictures, she didn't flinch. Just nodded and said, "He's in trouble. You did the right thing." That helped more than I can explain. The case was logged. They opened an investigation. Meanwhile, Miles told me to contact Dropbox to get a preservation order on the link in case Travis tried to delete it. He helped me draft a cease and desist letter too. But still, I was on edge. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Every time I checked my email, my heart skipped. I wasn't sleeping. I felt like he could show up anywhere, like he was watching. Because the worst part? He knew where I was. He hadn't come to the house yet, but one of his emails said, "Hope Colorado's treating you well. Not sure about the air up there, but I hear the sunsets are nice." I hadn't posted my move online. Not even on my private Insta. So how did he know? That sent me into a tailspin. I called Miles in full panic. He told me to pull everything offline, scrub what I could, go private on everything. I did. Brianna helped. We went into full digital lockdown. I even changed my phone number, canceled all my upcoming work conferences, and warned my boss, Kevin, that something serious was going on. Kevin was super supportive. He said, "If he contacts anyone here, we'll handle it. You focus on protecting yourself." For a few days, things were quiet. No emails. No new threats. I thought maybe he'd gotten scared. Maybe the cease and desist, the legal stuff had gotten through. I even let myself breathe. I went out to dinner with Brianna. I watched TV without checking my phone every 10 minutes. I slept. Then just when I started to believe the nightmare was winding down, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Postmarked from Dallas. Inside was a printed 8x10 photo of me nude, taken without my knowledge. I recognized the bedroom. His bedroom. I recognized the exact moment. He had hidden a camera. My stomach turned. I dropped the envelope and just started shaking. Brianna came home to find me curled on the floor. When I showed her the photo, she went ballistic. She wanted to call the cops again that second. We did. Officer Jensen came back out, took the photo, logged it, added it to the report. She said, "This just became a whole different case. This is criminal surveillance. He's in serious trouble." I nodded, but I wasn't okay. I felt violated in a way I didn't even have words for. Not just embarrassed. Betrayed. He didn't just threaten me. He recorded me without my knowledge, kept the footage, and mailed it to scare me. That was calculated. Evil. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went dead silent. Because now I was done being scared. If he wanted to make this a war, then fine. I'd make sure he never felt peace again. After the envelope incident, Olivia obviously was done playing defense. I wasn't just going to hide, wait, and pray he got bored. No. Travis had crossed the line so far behind him it was a speck in the rearview mirror. He'd filmed me without consent. That was federal. It was time to stop reacting and start orchestrating. I was living with Brianna, but I didn't want to put her at risk. So I moved into a short-term rental in Boulder using a fake name on the mailbox. Thankfully, my legal first name but never used Monica came in handy. I took unpaid time off work and told Kevin, my boss, that I was handling a personal legal matter involving digital abuse. And he didn't ask for details. He told me to take what I needed. Legend. While I was setting up my hideout, Miles, my lawyer, was working double time. He'd filed a restraining order, though we were still waiting on the court date. Meanwhile, he contacted a private investigator he'd worked with before, Kelsey Warren, ex-FBI, now in the private sector. Kelsey was a small blonde woman in her 40s who looked like she'd snap a grown man in half for sport. When we met at her Denver office, she wore all black and drank coffee like it owed her money. She asked for all the files. I gave her everything: the photos, screenshots, email headers, metadata. She said, "If this guy's slipping up, I'll find it. And trust me, they always slip up." That was exactly what I needed to hear. She asked if I thought he might escalate to showing up in person. I told her yes, 100%. She nodded once and said, "We'll prepare for that." That same day, I went to a nearby shooting range. I'd grown up in a small town in Kansas. My dad taught me how to handle a firearm by the time I was 12, but I hadn't touched one in years. I rented a Glock 43 and spent an hour reminding myself I wasn't helpless. I wasn't weak. I wasn't prey. I got better with every magazine. By the end of the session, the target center was gone. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it felt good. That night, I got a call from Kelsey. She'd already traced the Dropbox account. Guess what? Travis had used his work email to register it months ago, before he got fired. She also found out he'd backed up my photos to a Google Drive folder, connected to a Gmail address with a variation of his initials. Real genius level stuff. That meant Google had server-side logs. With a subpoena, we could access timestamps, IP addresses, and device IDs. That would prove he uploaded and managed the content. In legal terms, slam dunk. She also found he'd made several purchases through a prepaid debit card to send the envelope, bought the card in Fort Worth, mailed the package from a box store drop center, and paid for postage with that card. She cross-referenced security footage from the store with the card's timestamp, and guess who she saw? Travis in a red hoodie and a dumbass backwards ball cap. Caught in 4K. I almost cried when she showed me the frame. Not out of sadness, relief. I wasn't imagining this. I wasn't crazy. He really was hunting me. With the evidence mounting, Miles called in a favor from a prosecutor he knew in the Boulder County DA's office, Nate Blanchard. Nate was one of those clean-cut, ex-varsity quarterback types, all square jaw and rolled-up sleeves. But he was sharp. When Miles laid out the case, Nate said, "Yeah, we're pressing charges. This guy's done. Meanwhile, Travis tried to reach out again. This time, he emailed my ex-roommate from college, Shauna, who I hadn't spoken to in almost 5 years. Somehow he'd found her LinkedIn, guessed her personal email, and wrote this long, bizarre message about how I was dangerous, vindictive, and mentally unstable. He attached one of the intimate photos, claimed it was proof of my manipulations. Shauna, being the badass she's always been, didn't reply to him. Instead, she sent me the full thread. Miles added that to the evidence pile. That made 4 counts of distribution of explicit material without consent. I called Shauna to thank her and she said, "Girl, you should have told me this was going on. I know I'm in LA now, but I've got a cousin who works in cybersecurity. You want me to put you in touch?" I said yes. Why the hell not? That cousin was Devin Mitchell, a quiet, intense guy with a gaming chair and 3 monitors. I gave him Travis's email addresses, phone numbers, even his old Xbox gamer tag. Devin got to work like it was a dungeon boss raid. Within a few days, he had confirmation that Travis had set up fake Reddit accounts, burner Twitters, and even a couple of profiles on revenge forums, places I didn't even know existed. He hadn't just threatened to leak stuff. He'd been trying, posting teasers looking for attention, asking, "Anyone know how to get back at a Psycho X?" Devin sent it all in a compiled report. Miles's eyes lit up like a kid at Christmas. "He's cooked," he said. "We're going to court. And we're not just going to stop this, we're going to bury him under it." The next morning, I got the call I'd been waiting for. The police had issued a warrant for Travis's arrest. The charges: invasion of privacy, non-consensual distribution of intimate images, stalking, criminal harassment, and unlawful surveillance. 5 felonies. 2 misdemeanors. Bond set at $75,000. They picked him up in his apartment outside Dallas. According to the report, he didn't resist, but he kept repeating, "She did this to me. She ruined my life. She's lying." Typical. I found out he spent the first night in lockup crying in the holding cell and begging to call his mom. I wish I could say I didn't smile when I heard that, but I did. I smiled hard. His first court date was set for the following month. Miles warned me that his attorney would probably try to negotiate a deal, but we weren't accepting anything that didn't include a felony conviction and registration. I wasn't here for an apology. I was here for justice. Meanwhile, my story was now in the hands of the Boulder County legal system, but I wasn't done. I still had moves to make. If Travis thought jail was bad, he hadn't seen what I had planned next. Travis being arrested was satisfying. Yeah, but don't get it twisted, it wasn't enough. Not even close. This man had stalked me, humiliated me, tried to destroy my personal and professional life, and recorded me without my consent. Jail was justice. But what I wanted now was ruin. Not just legal consequences. I wanted his name blackened. I wanted people to see the real him, the predator underneath the tattoos and backwards baseball cap. I wasn't trying to go public, but I knew exactly how to spread a little truth in the right places. I'd made a promise to myself after that envelope arrived. He would regret ever opening that Dropbox. So while he sat in jail waiting on his bail hearing, I called in another favor. This time from Renee, a former coworker from my nonprofit days who now ran social media and communications for a women's advocacy group in Portland. Renee and I had worked closely on campaigns involving online harassment, digital abuse, and consent education. When I called and explained the situation, what Travis had done, the charges he was facing, the lengths he went to, she listened without interrupting. Then she said, "Say less. We've got a platform. We've got lawyers. And we've got rage." Her group launched a carefully anonymized campaign. A composite survivor story told through Instagram posts and Twitter threads, built from my case. They didn't name names, didn't post photos. But the details? Anyone who knew Travis, anyone who had ever met him would recognize it. The timeline, the job loss, the revenge photos, the arrest. It blew up in under 24 hours. It was reposted by several advocacy orgs across the country, and suddenly we were getting emails from other women. That's right, other women. One of them was Heather, a bartender from Amarillo who dated Travis briefly 2 years ago. She said he'd pressured her into sending nudes, then showed them to his buddies during a poker night. She never reported it because she was scared. Another woman, Danielle, said he catfished her sister using a fake name and convinced her to send photos, which he later tried to sell online. Yeah, sell. I nearly threw my phone across the room. This wasn't just a bad boyfriend. This was a serial predator. Miles immediately added their statements to our ongoing civil suit. But the real win? Heather agreed to file her own police report. So did Danielle's sister. 2 different counties, 2 different cases. More legal weight. More exposure. Meanwhile, I reached out to Caitlin, a journalist I'd met once through a mutual friend. She worked for a medium-sized digital outlet focused on tech and law. And when I told her I had a first-person account of a revenge porn survivor willing to speak off-record, she jumped. We met in a coffee shop in Boulder. I wore sunglasses and a hoodie and had a pepper spray canister in my purse, even though Travis was behind bars. Paranoia had become second nature. Caitlin took notes while I told her everything, how we met, how things spiraled, the threats, the envelope, the arrest. Kept it raw. Honest. Angry. When I finished, she looked at me and said, "You realize this story is going to blow up, right?" I shrugged. Good. A week later, the article dropped. Title: He said he loved me. Then he tried to destroy me. Inside a digital nightmare. It didn't name me, but it described Travis's arrest in detail, referenced court filings, even linked to public records. It didn't take long for people to connect the dots. Travis's old co-workers from the motorcycle shop in Austin? They posted the article on their Facebook page with the caption, "We fired this creep for a reason. Believe women." His ex-roommate from Houston commented, "He owes me 6 months of rent and lied about having cancer." His cousin from San Antonio tweeted, "Family or not, I hope he rots. We cut ties years ago." It was like a damn avalanche. Every skeleton in his closet rolled downhill in real time. People started sharing stories. Little things. Creepy messages. Uncomfortable vibes. Sketchy behavior. Suddenly, Travis was that guy, the name whispered at parties, the guy warned about in group chats. And I was fine with that. I didn't care about sympathy. I wanted awareness. I wanted him radioactive. And I was just getting warmed up. Around this time, Miles got a call from Rebecca Lyons, a civil rights attorney based in Santa Fe who specialized in stalking and harassment cases. She'd seen the article. She wanted to represent me on a pro bono basis in a federal civil suit, citing emotional distress, defamation, and unlawful surveillance. Miles vetted her. She was legit. I said yes. Rebecca was no nonsense. Mid-50s, boots on the ground, and she hated men like Travis with a kind of fury only a seasoned advocate can possess. She filed a federal suit so fast his new defense lawyer actually called to try and talk settlement terms. I told them to eat glass. Not a penny less than 6 figures. No ND, and absolutely no sealed records. Travis tried to claim indigence. Said he couldn't pay damages. But guess what? Kelsey, our PI, found out he'd sold a classic Harley-Davidson a few months earlier for $19,000 cash and never reported it. He'd also been flipping old guitar gear through a buddy's pawn shop under the table. Classic paper trail dodge. Rebecca turned it into evidence of asset hiding. The judge wasn't impressed. He froze what was left of Travis's checking account and granted a preliminary judgment in my favor. $137,000. I wasn't expecting to collect every cent, but that wasn't the point. The judgment stuck to his credit. It followed him like a shadow. He'd never rent an apartment, get a car loan, or open a legitimate bank account without that debt showing up. But still, the piece de resistance came from a totally unexpected source. A woman named Jenny, who turned out to be Travis's former high school guidance counselor, messaged me through a burner Instagram account. She said she recognized his name from the article, did a little digging and had some information, if I was willing to speak to her. I was cautious but agreed. We met on a Zoom call and she dropped a bomb. Travis had been caught filming a girl in the girls' locker room with a cell phone when he was 16. The school covered it up, sent him to some juvenile program and quietly expelled him after graduation. I sat there stunned. She'd kept records, notes, emails, because even then she'd known he wasn't right. But the school buried it to avoid scandal. She'd lived with the guilt ever since. "I should have done more," she said. "But I hope this helps now." Oh, it helped. Rebecca brought it to the DA in Boulder. The statute of limitations was long past, but it painted a crystal clear picture of escalation. This wasn't a guy who snapped. This was a man who'd spent over a decade violating women's privacy. And now, the walls were closing in. Travis was out on bail by that point, but he wasn't smiling anymore. He wasn't online. He wasn't sending threats. He was silent. Finally, because for the first time he was the one looking over his shoulder. Travis was out on bail, sure, but he was not free. Not really. His freedom had bars you couldn't see. His mugshot was circulating in advocacy groups and subreddits. His name had been blacklisted across dozens of online communities, and any time he tried to post on Reddit or make a burner account, it was reported in under 5 minutes. I didn't do all that. Other women, other people were watching now. He was radioactive. No job prospects. No social media presence that wasn't instantly taken down. No friends publicly defending him. And thanks to the civil judgment and federal suit, he couldn't so much as open a PayPal account without getting flagged. But here's the twist. Travis still thought he could outmaneuver the consequences. Maybe not legally, but socially. He started reaching out to people from his past, old coworkers, high school friends, ex-girlfriends, people who weren't in the loop. And that's how Tasha, who used to date him back in Lubbock, found herself getting a weird DM. "Hey, long time no see," he wrote. "Would love to catch up." Tasha, being one of those people who still believed in giving people second chances, agreed to meet him for coffee. He gave her a sob story, claimed he was falsely accused, said I was a bitter ex with a vendetta, and that I doctored everything to ruin him. He said I had deep mental issues and was obsessed with destroying men. Tasha didn't know what to believe. She messaged me that night, hesitant but honest. Said she didn't want to jump to conclusions, but she felt something was off. I thanked her for reaching out, then sent her a link to the court records, the police reports, and the article Caitlin had written. I didn't editorialize, just gave her the facts. The next morning she responded with, "Holy shit, I had no idea. I'm so sorry." That became a pattern. Travis would try to manipulate someone from his past, Micah, a guy he played softball with, Loren, a girl he worked with back in 2018, and they'd reach out to me for confirmation. I'd give them the links, the evidence, the truth. And one by one his bridges burned. He wasn't reclaiming his image. He was incinerating it. And I wasn't lifting a finger. The dominoes fell on their own. It all culminated with a Facebook post from Coach Harmon, his old high school football coach, who posted Travis's mugshot with a simple caption. "Sometimes people don't change. Sometimes they just get older and scarier. Protect your daughters." That post went semi-viral in their hometown. Dozens of parents commented, thanking the coach for saying something. Travis's family tried to run damage control. His uncle Greg, who owned a used car dealership, claimed in a comment thread that Travis had just made a mistake, and women exaggerate everything these days. That backfired hard. Within hours, the dealership's Yelp page was flooded with negative reviews. Not fake ones either. Actual women and employees who shared stories about creepy encounters with Greg and Travis from years ago. It was like pulling a thread and watching the whole damn sweater unravel. I didn't expect what came next, though. One day, out of nowhere, I got a call from a block number. I never answered those anymore, but something told me to pick up. A woman's voice. Shaky. Soft. "Is this Olivia?" I said yes. She introduced herself as Rachel, and then dropped a bombshell. She was Travis's fiancée. Or had been until the week before. My heart stopped. "You were engaged to him?" I asked, trying not to fall over. "Yeah," she said, voice cracking. "For 7 months. We were supposed to get married this fall." He told me his ex was spreading lies online, that he was being targeted because of an old misunderstanding. I believed him. Until I saw the article. And then I saw your name. Rachel had Googled me, found my LinkedIn, recognized a photo of me and Travis together from years ago. She'd confronted him with the article. He told her I was a jealous ex who made everything up for attention. But when she demanded to see court documents, he refused. When she asked him about the envelope photo, she said I described the exact same bedroom she'd slept in. He got violent. Not physically, but emotionally. He smashed a lamp, called her a traitor, threw her suitcase into the hallway. She left. Took her dog. Went to stay with her sister. And now she was calling me to say she was sorry. She said, "I don't expect anything from you. I just needed to hear your voice. To know you're real. That this wasn't some made-up story." I told her she wasn't crazy. That she wasn't alone. I told her what he did to me. She cried. I cried. And then she said something that made my stomach twist. "He still has a flash drive. With photos. Of me. I thought he deleted them." He told me he did. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't over. Because Rachel was living proof that Travis hadn't just wronged me. He was still collecting trophies, still storing images, still manipulating. So I gave her Rebecca's number, told her she could join the civil suit. She agreed. A few days later we met in person, me and Rachel, at a diner off I-25. She was younger than me, quieter, but you could see the fire behind her eyes. She said, "I want to testify. I want him to know I'm not afraid of him." That gave me goosebumps, because neither was I. Not anymore. The next big hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. It would include statements from me, Heather, Danielle's sister, and now Rachel. Multiple states. Multiple victims. The assistant DA, Carlos Whitaker, said this was one of the most egregious digital abuse cases he'd seen in the last decade. And even if Travis's lawyers begged for a plea, Carlos said he'd only consider one with serious prison time. Like years. Not months. Meanwhile, Travis's public defender filed a motion claiming he was suffering from extreme emotional distress and needed a mental health evaluation. They were clearly trying to angle for sympathy. But the judge, Honorable Lisa Carpenter, wasn't buying it. She read the motion aloud in court and then said, "This court recognizes the defendant's right to due process, but emotional distress is not a license to stalk, threaten, or sexually exploit women." Denied. I wanted to clap. I didn't, but I wanted to. After that, things picked up fast. More subpoenas. More interviews. A forensic tech team recovered dozens of deleted files from Travis's cloud backups, most of which confirmed what we already knew. This man had a digital library of exploitation. But what really sealed it? A recorded phone call. Rachel had left her phone recording the last time she spoke with him. On it, he admitted to storing the photos. Admitted to mailing the envelope. Said, and I quote, "She should have just shut up and gotten back together with me. This is all her fault." That audio? Gold. It got entered into evidence. Suddenly, Travis's tone changed. He stopped pleading not guilty. Started whispering in court. "Stop looking at me." I didn't care. I sat there, spine straight, chin up, while Rachel held my hand. Because this wasn't just my fight anymore. It was ours. And we weren't going anywhere. The day of the hearing arrived like a slow, thunderous freight train. I hadn't slept the night before. Neither had Rachel. She crashed at my place in Boulder, and we stayed up eating kettle corn and going over our statements until 3 a.m. I wasn't nervous. I was electric. I felt like every nerve in my body was humming. This wasn't just about Travis anymore. It was about drawing a line in permanent marker and saying, "You don't get to win." The courthouse itself was gray and sterile. Drop-ceiling tiles, vending machines with stale trail mix, everything smelling vaguely like carpet cleaner. But the courtroom? That was something else. It had high wood-paneled walls and a judge's bench that made you feel like God himself might be watching. Judge Lisa Carpenter was presiding again. Bless her no-nonsense soul. Her black robe swished like a cloak of war. She didn't smile. Didn't blink much either. I loved her for it. I wore a navy blue pantsuit with flat shoes, no makeup. Rachel wore all black with a silver pendant she said belonged to her grandmother. We walked in side by side like a damn wall of steel. On the other side of the room, Travis sat flanked by his new attorney, Paul Dalton, some sad-eyed guy with a thinning comb-over and a briefcase that looked like it hadn't been opened in a decade. Travis looked rough. He'd lost weight. His hair was greasy. His hoodie was wrinkled and hung off his frame like it was melting. He looked at me for half a second, then away. Good. The DA, Carlos Whitaker, opened the proceedings with a bang. He laid out the charges one by one. 5 felony counts, 2 misdemeanors, plus civil cases pending in 3 states. He introduced the court to the photo evidence, the audio recording Rachel made, the screenshots of Dropbox folders, and the forensic analysis that proved Travis had distributed multiple files through burner forums. I watched Travis squirm in his chair while Carlos spoke like he was reading from the Book of Judgment. Then came the witness statements. Danielle's sister, Mia, testified via Zoom from a courthouse in Tallahassee. She was visibly shaken but powerful. Said he manipulated her when she was only 19 and that he'd threatened to ruin her life if she ever told anyone. Then Heather took the stand. She talked about poker nights where he showed her photos to his drunk friends like they were baseball cards. The courtroom went dead silent. Then it was Rachel's turn. She took a deep breath, stood up, and said clearly into the microphone, "He told me if I ever left him, he had ways to make sure I regretted it. I didn't know what that meant at the time. Now I do." Travis didn't look at her once. Then it was me. I stood up, palms sweaty but steady. I told them everything. How we met. How he slowly tightened the leash. The photos. The threats. The envelope. I kept my voice even clear, unshaken. I told them about the nights I couldn't sleep, the paranoia, the fear. I told them how I moved cities, deleted every account, lost weight from stress. How I lost myself. And then I told them how I took it back. He wanted to break me, I said, turning to face the judge directly. But I'm standing here today with my head up, because I refuse to let him. And I'm not the only one. Rachel gave me a tiny nod. I felt it like a lightning strike. After our statements, Paul Dalton tried to soften the blow with a character witness, Travis's childhood friend Brent, who came all the way from Galveston to say Travis was a good guy at heart, and just lost control of his emotions. Brent tried to make it about stress, about mental health, about how Travis never got over his dad's death. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just let Judge Carpenter handle it. And she did. When it came time for her ruling on the pretrial motion, she leaned forward, stared directly at Travis and said, "Mr. Chandler, your actions represent a sustained, calculated, and dangerous pattern of digital abuse and sexual coercion. You used modern technology not as a tool but as a weapon. You terrorized these women, and you tried to cover it up with lies and manipulation. That ends now." You could hear a pin drop. She ruled to proceed to a full criminal trial. No plea deal. No bail modification. And then she dropped a bomb. This court is also recommending the state pursue sexual offender registry requirements pending conviction. Travis's head snapped up like someone had slapped him. His lawyer just nodded grimly. That was the moment it hit him. This wasn't going away. This wasn't getting swept under the rug. He was facing real, permanent consequences. Rachel let out a breath I don't think she knew she was holding. Carlos turned to us and gave the smallest smile, just the corner of his mouth lifting, as if to say we've got him. After the hearing, we stepped outside. The air felt crisper, like it had been scrubbed clean. News crews were waiting. Nothing national, just local affiliates who'd picked up the story after the social media campaign caught fire. I didn't speak to them. Neither did Rachel. We just walked past the cameras, heads high, hand in hand. A week later, my lawyer Rebecca called. She said Travis's team had made a new offer in the civil suit. They'd agreed to full damages, no negotiation, and Travis would issue a court-approved apology on record if we dropped the public testimony portion. I said hell no. I didn't want his apology. I wanted people to hear what he did. I wanted it in the court transcript. I wanted it searchable. Permanent. Rebecca agreed. She said, "You're one of the strongest clients I've ever had. And I've been doing this since AOL chat rooms." The criminal trial date was set for November. Until then I had to wait. But I wasn't idle. I started volunteering again, this time at a local organization called EchoSafe, a group that helped survivors of tech-based abuse. I ran workshops, helped women lock down their digital lives, spoke at colleges. My first event was at a community college in Greeley. I stood in front of 30 nervous freshmen, mostly women, and told them, "Never be ashamed of what someone did to you. Be proud of what you did after." At the end of the talk, one girl came up in tears and said, "Thank you. I've never heard anyone talk about this before." That moment meant more to me than any courtroom victory, because I'd found purpose in the wreckage. Travis may have lit the match, but I was the one who walked through the fire and came out whole. I didn't know what the next hearing would bring. I didn't know how long the process would take. But I knew this much. I wasn't scared of him anymore. And I never would be again. The sentencing was held in early March, in a courtroom that felt colder than the air outside. Colorado was still locked in late winter chill, but the real ice was in the silence that fell the moment Travis entered. He was thinner, paler. His posture wasn't arrogant anymore, it was wilted. His attorney, a younger woman now named Erin Moreland, had replaced his last one after he apparently cussed him out in a holding cell. Erin didn't seem particularly invested in saving his soul. She looked exhausted. To her credit, she didn't pull stunts. She didn't beg the court for mercy or launch into some guilt-laden sob story about childhood trauma. She knew there was no gas left in the tank. Travis had pleaded guilty to 3 felony counts and 2 misdemeanors in exchange for the DA dropping the rest. We'd agreed, but only under the condition that victim impact statements would be read in full, with no edits. That was my non-negotiable, because if I had to live with what he did for the rest of my life, the very least he could do was sit there and listen. Judge Carpenter presided again. Same black robe, same steel eyes. She called the room to order with a tone that could slice metal. This hearing is now in session for final sentencing in the matter of the state of Colorado versus Travis Lee Chandler. I'll never forget the sound of his full name being read out loud like that. There was something about it, official, permanent, shameful. I was first to speak. I walked to the podium, unfolded my statement, and looked straight ahead. Not at him. Not even at the judge. Just into the middle distance where I imagined all the other women in the world who had been forced to stay quiet. And then I spoke. I talked about what it felt like to have my body weaponized. What it felt like to see an envelope in the mail, and know there was something inside that was never supposed to exist. I talked about being hunted, digitally, emotionally, psychologically, and how somehow I came out stronger. I refuse to carry your shame, I said to the air. It's yours. May it stay with you for the rest of your life. Rachel went next. Her voice cracked once but never broke. He told me I was paranoid when I caught him saving photos, told me I was controlling, told me I was crazy, and then when I left, he made it his life's mission to punish me for having boundaries. She ended her statement with a calm so chilling it could freeze oceans. You didn't break me. You only proved what I always suspected. You were never a man. Just a boy with a grudge. Heather's statement was short but brutal. Danielle's sister, Mia, had a representative read hers in person, since she couldn't make it. Every word, every sentence, was a nail in the coffin Travis had built for himself, one lie at a time. When it came time for Travis to speak, he shuffled up to the podium in an orange jumpsuit and looked like he was trying to cry. He mumbled something about being really sorry for how things turned out. Not for what he did. Not for who he hurt. Just how things turned out. Judge Carpenter didn't flinch. She stared at him for a long, hard second before beginning. Mr. Chandler, you are not here today because of one mistake. You are not here because of heartbreak or poor judgment. You are here because you made repeated, intentional, and malicious decisions to violate the dignity, privacy, and autonomy of multiple women. You terrorized your victims with the comfort of a coward who believed technology would shield him. You are wrong. Technology does not shield you. The law does not shield you. And this court will not shield you. She sentenced him to 11 years in state prison. He would also be required to register as a sex offender for 20 years following his release, attend mandatory therapy, and pay restitution to each victim, starting with me. I didn't cheer. I didn't cry. I just sat there in stunned silence, letting the words settle into my bones. When they led him away, Travis glanced back just once. He didn't look angry or remorseful. He looked surprised, like he still hadn't fully grasped that he was going to prison, that I'd actually followed through, that his charm, his manipulation, his scare tactics didn't work anymore. That was the last time I saw him. I don't ever plan to see him again. After the sentencing, life didn't go back to normal. There's no normal after something like this. But there was peace and purpose. I moved to Fort Collins, got a new apartment near the foothills. I still volunteer with EcoSafe, but now I'm on their advisory board. I've helped pass 2 local ordinances related to digital harassment, and we're working on a state-level policy next year. Rachel got certified as a digital safety consultant. She gives talks at high schools now, and she's damn good at it. Sometimes she texts me random things like, "Remember when I thought he was the love of my life?" LOL. We laugh. It's a good kind of scar. Not all the women who testified kept in touch, but we stay loosely connected. Mia sent me a thank you note after the sentencing. Heather emailed me an article recently. Another state passed revenge porn laws modeled after ours. Sometimes I still get messages. From strangers. From women who've read about the case or heard my name. They tell me things they haven't told anyone. They ask me if it gets better. And I always say yes. Not fast. Not easy. But yes. It gets better when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Not again. Not anyone else." I'll never be the same person I was before I met Travis. But that's okay. That girl was sweet, naive, kind. She saw the best in people even when they didn't deserve it. I loved her. But I don't miss her. I'm someone new now. Someone who walked through the worst and came out the other side armed with truth and a name he'll never outrun. So yeah. AITA for ruining my ex's life after he tried to blackmail me with intimate photos? You tell me. As if I am. I'd do it again. Twice.